Hi everybody, I'm Stephanie Meyer. I am the author of the blog Fresh Tart, and I'm the creator of the free Healing Green Broth 30-Day Challenge, and I'm the owner of Project Vibrancy Meals, Meal Plans, and Project Vibrancy Coaching. I know that sounds like a million things, but they're all incredibly related to each other. They all are centered around basically my goal to help you find and cook the delicious food that makes you feel amazing. So all of the ways that I sort of come at that, sharing recipes, sharing meal plans, doing coaching, just helping you out in all the ways possible to encourage you to eat better and figure out how to feel awesome, because we all want to feel awesome. And I have sort of been on this food journey for the last, oh my gosh, it's been more than 10 years now. I would say that I kind of started all of this somewhere between 2006 and 2010, which is when my previously good health, I'd always been very lucky and really hadn't had any health problems, honestly. My health started to really tank, and it was very confusing and very upsetting. I now, in retrospect, realize that I was just starting to really experience a lot of inflammation, and I was unsure why. I hadn't really changed my diet, and I hadn't really changed much of anything. I've always been relatively health conscious. I liked cooking healthy food. I liked working out, and I just started to have all of this swelling. I had very swollen ankles, swollen hands, swollen face. I gained weight, and a lot of it really felt like water weight. It was very puffy and lots of fatigue. I had a couple of miscarriages. I was prescribed antidepressant medication. It was really a terrible time, and I had a lot of doctor's appointments and a lot of other great medical practitioners like acupuncture and physical therapy. I was doing Pilates. I had a very knowledgeable Pilates instructor who was trying everything to help me out, and I just was not getting to the root issue or figuring out what was causing this inflammation for me. And eventually in 2010, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune thyroid disease. And who knows what came first, the Hashimoto's and all of the gut, digestion, food reaction problems, or, those came first and Hashimoto's came after. It's up for debate. What is clear is that they tend to be very connected to each other, and they have absolutely been connected for me, and I assume for a lot of you, you've had some of the same issues related to bloating and fatigue and skin reactions and all of the food sensitivity kind of issues that sometimes end up leading to an autoimmune diagnosis. So whatever, they're all wrapped up with each other. The good thing about the diagnosis is that it really put me on a path of figuring out food reactions. I tied the two together. In 2010, stopped eating gluten, eventually kind of went paleo, and then eventually found the autoimmune protocol, which is a subset of paleo that is a combination elimination diet for figuring out food sensitivities, and it's also a very healing diet. And it was just the magic that I needed. It was there's a lot of lifestyle elements that go with the autoimmune protocol. I'm going to talk about some of them today, but that combination of things really put me back to normal and back into my feeling well. And every time I vary from that in any significant way, which of course I do because I'm human and not perfect, I really start to kind of tank, and then I always have that to come back to, and I'm so grateful for that. So Paleo AIP has been the template that has worked for me, and I love to share it with people. The meal plans that I write, Project Vibrancy Meals, are based on an AIP and Paleo template with lots of ways to customize it. If you do eat gluten-free grains, if you are following Whole30 instead of AIP, lots of ways to customize. And then for people who have reintroduced foods on the autoimmune protocol, including myself. But for the most part, that's sort of the template. And so I'm very knowledgeable about that. I love developing recipes for it. And you see that in all of the recipes that I share with you on my blog and here on this Fresh Tart page. And then I also have another Facebook group called Food Reaction Freedom. Find Your Best Foods. I'll put a link to that below. Because that's where people who don't necessarily have autoimmune disease but are wanting to explore food reactions and food sensitivities can sort of check in for recipes and advice and guidance and tips and meet other people and all the good things that happen here on Facebook. So I just wanted to say all that so that you know the journey that I've been on and all the ways that I've experimented. Honestly, all the money that I've probably wasted, although I try not to think about it that way because I've learned a lot. All the supplements I've taken that have been good, fail, maybe did nothing. It's just been a long journey of trying to figure all of that out. And I love sharing it with you. And so that's what I'm going to do today. I've got 10 tips that I'm going to give you, and I put them in order of what I would say, what I would point you toward experimenting with first, because I called this, finding your way through the maze, because it feels like a maze. There are a lot of voices out there shouting about what is the best way to approach your health. And I would argue that you can actually cut through it pretty quickly if you follow these 10 tips. And you'll have to let me know what you think after you hear them all. So if you're here and you're watching, I would love it if you said hello. If you're in Project Vibrancy Meals or Project Vibrancy Coaching or one of the Facebook groups, please say hi. And thank you for being here today. And I just want to preface this all by saying that before I dive into it, small changes are very powerful. Sometimes it feels like everyone is advocating that you just turn your life upside down and change everything. You empty out your cupboards, you wake up an hour earlier, you start doing all the things all at the same time. And sure, there are people that are great about that. I'm actually probably one of those people. I'm a sort of tear off the Band-Aid, I want to do the whole thing, I want to do it all right now kind of a person. But the people who don't, who make small changes one at a time, succeed more than people who don't. So if you just like to make small tweaks and get used to that small tweak before you add another one, you're doing it right. And so I'll be advocating for that as I go through this today. And I don't want anyone to underestimate the power of making small changes, because they're very powerful. And the way you know it is by collecting data. That's my second point. I know I sound like a broken record when I talk about food journaling, but it's really just data collecting. And what you're embarking on is a study of yourself. It's an experiment. You'll be experimenting with different things to figure out what works for you. And the only way to know is to take notes and to collect the data. So I'm going to put a link below to the food journal worksheet that I've shared lots of times. I've shared it here. I share it in the Food Reaction Freedom group. I've shared it in past little pop-up groups where we talk about food sensitivities. And you don't have to use this exact template. You can print it out and use it if you like. But it'll give you a sense, if you'd rather do it in an app, for what you should be tracking so that you can learn about any of the changes that you're making. If you add in a supplement, if you decide to spend 30 days not eating grains, for instance, or going gluten-free, if you, whatever change that you make, the only way you're really going to know if it helped or if it's hurting, because sometimes when you do some of these things, you might slide down a little bit. The only way you're going to know is if you write it down. So those are my two things I wanted to preface all of this with. All right, I'm going to jump in to talking about my top 10 tips, which the first half I kind of think of as the low-hanging fruit. The second half is more of the deep dive. So that's how I have them in order. All of them address inflammation in various ways, and I'll sort of be speaking to that as I go along, but sort of keep that in mind. So the first one is not going to be surprising at all. It is to eat real food prepared at home. And I'm not saying that just because I write meal plans for people to eat real food prepared at home. I'm saying it because it's the proven way to have control over the food that you're eating, which you just cannot have when you're eating in restaurants. You don't even know half the ingredients that are in foods. And a lot of those ingredients can really cause inflammation. So when you're preparing food at home, you have control, and you can choose to cook with fats that are anti-inflammatory instead of inflammatory. Most restaurants are going to be cooking with canola oil. It's for totally legit reasons. It's affordable, it's vegetarian, And, a lot of people aren't allergic to it. They can't cook in, peanut oil. It's too expensive to cook in olive oil. And frying things in, lard or animal fat isn't vegetarian. So that puts restaurants in a really tough bind. And so they tend to turn to canola oil. I hate canola oil. I hate the way it tastes. It's really unhealthy when it's heated, which is usually how it's used. I wouldn't even say that it's healthy when it's cold. But anyway, it's a fat that I really avoid, and it has, I consider it an inflammatory fat. And so when I'm cooking at home, I want to be using olive oil and avocado oil. And if you can eat coconut, some coconut oil, using grass-fed butter, if you can have dairy. Having a mix of all of those fats is really important. We need all of them. And you're just not going to get that when you're eating food that's prepared in restaurants, in takeout, delis, or if it comes out of a package. And that's not to say that you can never have those things, of course. A balanced diet, especially if you don't have to be strictly following the autoimmune protocol, for instance, can include eating in restaurants occasionally, but you're really going to get the most bang for your buck financially and with your health, with your weight, I would say even with your happiness, if you're preparing food that you love at home. So that's number one. Number two is really minor and really major. And I get a lot of pushback when I suggest this one, but it's only for a month. That's usually what I recommend for people, and that is to cut out caffeine. One of the biggest complaints for people that come into my world, that come into my various groups, is fatigue. And caffeine produces fatigue. It's so ironic and backward seeming because we use it to wake up in the morning. We use it as a pick-me-up in the afternoon. It can definitely sort of, clear brain fog a little bit. But as you clear it from your system, you crash down lower. And so you build this cycle of fatigue and then needing it to come back to normal. And one of the most energizing things and also anti-inflammatory things I have ever done for myself is kicking my caffeine habit. It's just been a game changer, and it ends up being true for almost everyone who tries it. There are lots of other delicious warm beverages that you can drink in the morning and in the afternoon that don't have caffeine in them, and so that is my second choice. So sorry, I know. Even decaf coffee, which still has a little bit of caffeine in it, can be a much better choice than drinking caffeine. You can know if you are a slow caffeine metabolizer or a fast fat caffeine metabolizer from doing a 23andMe genetic test. And I would suggest that it's important to know slow caffeine metabolizers really do have ill health effects from drinking caffeine, including high blood pressure and other kind of inflammatory responses. Fast caffeine metabolizers don't have as many problems, and I think that is pretty self-explanatory. Number three, also unpopular, but again, usually only for a short period of time, and you just learn so much. So remember that this is about learning and about data and really getting into what are the changes that you can make that really make a difference. Number three is to cut back on alcohol use. You will learn so much. I'm not saying you do it at the same time as caffeine, and I'm not saying that you do it at the same time as adding more real food to your diet. These are all can be considered individual experiments. You can pick one of them and just give it a try. But alcohol is a very powerful drug, which we know, so is caffeine for that matter. And we already know that it's really hard on your liver. It's hard to know what that means. And that means so much. It means that it's actually really detrimental to all of your hormones. If you are a premenopausal, perimenopausal, menopausal woman dealing with hot flashes, one of the most important things you can do is cut back on alcohol because of the effect that alcohol has on the whole hormonal system. And going through menopause is already really tough on your hormonal system. So that alone can make a huge difference. But if you're dealing with anxiety, alcohol has really negative impact on anxiety. It definitely increases it. So does caffeine, by the way. They kind of are the flip side of the same coin in a lot of ways. And it certainly disrupts like deep sleep. And then that can flow out to all sorts of other things, which I'm going to talk about next. So it's really important to experiment with it. If you've ever done a Whole30, it asks you to not use alcohol for a month, and I think it's probably one of the most powerful interventions of the Whole30. Certainly giving up sugar and certainly not eating processed food. But people are amazed at how incredible their skin looks, how great their eyes look, and how clear your eyes become. And you just realize what a stressor alcohol is on your system when you take it away for even a couple weeks. It makes a huge difference. So what I suggest for, a substitution is at the time of day that you're used to having a drink, which your brain will remind you of because alcohol creates a pretty big dopamine stamp, you're going to be reminded that you would really like to have a glass of wine or have a cocktail or have a beer or whatever. And so being ready with a replacement is really important. For me, what works best, you'll have to customize it, but is having something sparkling. So sparkling water, or I love hop water. It sounds kind of disgusting, but it is so delicious if you like beer. I get it at Whole Foods here in the Twin Cities. I don't think they have it at the co-ops. I have kept looking and haven't seen it there. But it is hop-infused water. It has a little bit of body the way that beer does, but it's not filling, doesn't have calories, it's super light and refreshing. And it has the elements that really make a mocktail work. So sparkling, a little bit of bitter, a little bit of sour, a little bit of sweet. Alcoholic beverages kind of have those things in them. And so if you can recreate them in a mocktail, even something as simple as a splash of apple cider vinegar and a splash of maple syrup in sparkling water, can really hit the spot and be great. And then once you're past that, you don't really think about it anymore. So just having some good beverages ready to go. Number 4 is an addition instead of a takeaway. I'll stop taking things away. And that is to add sleep and to add good sleep. I'm sure you already know this. We all would love to have more sleep, but prioritizing it can be a game changer because a lot of things flow out of it. Digestion improves, fatigue is lowered, food reactions are lowered, your hormones are more balanced. Certainly you have less brain fog during the day. The impact on hormones is so significant. I mean, by even losing one night of good sleep, you become insulin resistant. And so having good sleep affects everything downstream. It's just massively important. I probably should have put it as number 1. There were several contenders for number 1. But to have good sleep, what I like to focus on, and which is maybe a little bit unconventional, or at least not as widely recommended, but it's really helped for me, and that is to think about my circadian rhythm. So when I get up in the morning, I make sure that I get sunshine in my eyes so that my body and my sleep hormonal system knows that that's morning. And then your body times out the release of melatonin later in the evening based on when you had that sun exposure in the morning. So it's really important to get sun into your eyes, not just through a window, but by being outside. And if you live in Minnesota, that's really hard to do in the winter. So even having a light box sitting on your desk, which I do, so that you expose yourself to a very bright light source in the morning. And then at night, you're kind of doing the opposite. You want to limit your exposure to screens, which have a lot of blue light coming from them, whether that's your phone or your computer screen. You can use the F.Lux app for your computer, which is free. You can download it off the internet. And then smartphones have the ability to put a nighttime kind of a yellowing of the light. And I would do both of those things instantaneously. You can also wear amber glasses that are blue light blocking glasses in the evening, and they improve sleep dramatically. And then also to just dim all the lights around your home at night and try to not be looking at screens for an hour before you want to go to sleep. And then the very hardest thing of all is to have 8 hours in your bed. Which is really tough to do. I find it almost impossible to do, and I'm really working on it. You're not going to be asleep those 8 hours, but if you are in your bed for 8 hours consistently, you really will start to build better sleep habits and sleep better and fall asleep faster when you go to bed. And then the last 2 things, sleep in a cool room, sleep in a dark room. Those are both very important too. And they can be really, really specific hacks for figuring out how to get deeper and deeper sleep. You can track sleep on a Fitbit or an Oura Ring. There are other apps, now they're kind of even built into some beds, where you can track your sleep quality if you really want to dig into it, and you'll notice the impact of any one of those interventions. So we're still collecting data. It's a little bit different related to sleep, but you could certainly keep that in your journal as well and take note of what helps you have a good night's sleep. I'll stop there for sleep. 5, not sitting. So being sedentary is incredibly terrible for our health, which we're learning more and more and more about. And it's such a shame because we have engineered our lives to be sitting for a large part of the day if you have a traditional desk job. Luckily, lots of companies are starting to realize the health impact, and they're motivated from their own bottom line to have people up and about and standing at stand-up desks and encouraging people to move during the day. I would do all of those things, take advantage of any of those. I have a stand-up, it's an adjustable desk. So I can stand part of the day, sit part of the day. And I would suggest that if you've never been standing, you haven't been standing all day for a long time, to just ease yourself into it. Don't just go and stand for 8 hours, but sort of have parts of the day where you're standing, parts of the day where you're sitting, parts of the day where you're taking breaks to walk around. I remember back in the day, I used to work at Park Nicollet back in the, basically all of the 1990s and into the early 2000s. And it was just the beginning of everybody talking about how dangerous sedentary behavior was and all of the effects that it has, again, on hormones, blood sugar, cancer risk, Alzheimer's risk. I mean, all of this was just starting to be mumbled about, basically. And so we had a lot of healthcare or corporate wellness programs that were encouraging us to park farther away and walk in. And I just thought it was so dumb. I'm like, what difference is that going to make? I love being active, and I usually would walk every day at lunch, but I completely underestimated the value of walking in short bursts throughout the day on weight loss, which it absolutely matters, on bone health, on preserving muscle, on brain health. It just goes on and on and on, and it's so benign to just walk. Walking is a miracle, and we are designed for it. And if you can walk outside, then even better. And if you can do it in bursts throughout the day, that's perfect. That's basically how humans evolved, and that's how we preserve our health. So never let anyone sort of poo-poo the importance of walking and say that it's not hardcore exercise, because it is incredibly important, and I can't recommend it highly enough. And the studies just keep rolling in. So stand, move, walk, dance. I probably dance for more than an hour a day because it's how I cook and do dishes and make coffee and, keep it interesting. And I just take that opportunity to play loud music and dance. I dance at my stand-up desk. It's how I take breaks during the day, and all of that makes a huge difference. The more I focused on it, the better I have felt, and the easier it is to maintain weight also. Number 6, which could have been number 1, is manage your brain. I underestimated this for so many years. I underestimated the importance of learning to feel and manage my emotions. I didn't understand the impact that emotions have on physical health. Again, it's something that some people can really scorn and even make fun of people for being emotional, but it is so vitally important to feel emotions and to understand them and to harness them if you can, to change your life and to change your health. And for me, the game changer has been, there have been 5 probably, but one of them is meditation. I love the Waking Up app by Sam Harris. I've learned so much about the brain and about how meditation actually changes the structure of your brain. And I kind of needed to know that in order to stay motivated, because you don't see fast results from meditation. It takes a while to sort of build up. It's like lifting weights. It's lifting weights for your brain. And I've had so many people say to me, oh, I'm not meant for meditation. My brain is way too active. And I'm like, that's exactly why you meditate. Everybody's brain is way too active, Meditation allows you to take a step back from that and watch it. You can watch your brain being way too active, and you don't have to jump on the thoughts. You can just watch them float on by and then make decisions about which ones you're actually going to act on, if any. That's basically what meditation is, and it is a game changer. It's changed everything for me. The second one is journaling, which is, like having a free therapist. I have had periods of time in my life where I've journaled a lot, and then periods of time where I let it go, and have always suffered in the periods of time that I've let it go. It is an excellent way to examine the emotions that you're having, and then to make calm decisions about what you're going to do about it, and to plan and to reflect and to make decisions about the places that you would like to grow. Can't recommend it enough, and it's free, almost free. And then I love listening to great podcasts related to self-help, related to growth and coaching. They're very powerful. Audible books also, and even Instagram. I've really added quite a few. I can put the Instagram accounts below that I've started following since I'm looking at Instagram several times a day. I have found it very helpful to be following people that are great about posting good mental health content and reminders about really coming back to a place of logic, a place of understanding emotions, a place of making good decisions. Like, that can just be a thing that is right there during the day, and it's a habit I'm already doing anyway. And sometimes it completely can shift my mood, and it's very powerful. So following good Instagram accounts is really important. Ditto Facebook, by the way. But I could have put that as number one also, but managing your brain, managing mental health, finding an excellent therapist, dealing with past trauma, which does not go away if it's not dealt with, and then hiring a coach has been absolutely a game changer for me. I have an amazing coach. I have an appointment with him later today, actually. He's changed my life. Okay, so the next few, those are the absolute baseline, super important. I'm not suggesting you do them all at the same time, but explore each of them individually. The next few are sort of the digging into details if you've already got the other ones in place, which a lot of you do, because I have a lot of health conscious people that are following along here. But number 7 I have is lifting weights. Very important to have the daily movement down and to just be moving around all day. But if you want to change your body in a short period of time, there is no faster way than lifting weights. And it also just has all these incredible health benefits. So important for women, for bone health, so important for anti-aging. People spend so much money on anti-aging creams and, pills and supplements, and seriously the best anti-aging thing that you can be doing other than eating real food is lifting weights. And so I just can't say enough about it. It's something that's a little bit tricky to do on your own. It does require some training. If you join a gym, there are always trainers that are available there to teach you the basics. YouTube has endless free, excellent content on it. I love 2 online resources. The Mind Pump guys, they have a very popular podcast, which is super fun to listen to, but their programs are incredibly affordable and rich with information. Once you have the template and the system, then they have all of these instructional videos to teach you about proper form, and I just think their content is amazing, huge A+. And another one is Renaissance Periodization, RP. I think they're RP Strength on Instagram, but they also have fantastic templates. It's not expensive, and they have nutrition information as well if you're interested in that. So lots of info out there, lots of ways to figure it out. Doesn't have to be expensive, and I can't recommend it more highly. Number 8, this is the deep dive for after you've created a baseline of having real food that you're cooking at home for the most part. But if you're still experiencing food reactions, which is entirely possible to have reactions even to healthy foods, I certainly was. Personally, coconut, almonds, I'm skipping something. Coconut, almonds, That's so funny. Anyway, I have one other one that I avoid like the plague because I have very serious reactions, and those are really healthy foods that I was including in my diet, and I've learned that I needed to take out because I was doing a food journal and I was doing an elimination diet. So number 8 is elimination diet. You can gain a ton of information in a very short period of time by just doing a simple elimination diet. I usually suggest the autoimmune protocol or Whole30. There's tons of information out there about both, recipes, wonderful websites and fantastic books, just endless amounts of information. I have, as I mentioned, the Food Reaction Freedom, Find Your Best Foods, basically support group on Facebook for people who are wanting to figure out food sensitivities and find their way back to more energy and less bloating. I would love to have you in that group and to start experimenting. Of course, I'm going to say start food journaling so that you can start to figure out even which of the healthy foods that you're eating you might be having reactions to, and then you can eliminate them for a while, really focus on healing, and then reintroduce things. The goal is always to be eating as many nutritious foods as possible. Number 9 is to find a good functional medicine doctor. If all of the above is not helping you feel better, then it's time to get some testing. And I suggest functional medicine because a functional medicine practitioner is going to help you test your gut and help you test hormones and really help you get the deep dive on perhaps figuring out if you have some sort of an intestinal infection, if you have a parasite, if you have, hormonal issues that can be addressed with medications and with lifestyle interventions. And so finding a good functional medicine practitioner can be tricky sometimes. It can also be expensive because it might not be covered by insurance. But I suggest using Facebook to find good practitioners. I always encourage people to ask if they have people that have really helped them. Here in the Twin Cities, we have the Minneapolis-St. Paul Autoimmune Paleo Group, which is a group on Facebook, and it's full of more than 1,000 people with autoimmune disease, and there are lots and lots and lots of suggestions in there for various practitioners that have helped people in multitude of ways, depending on the autoimmune disease, depending on the issues. We're very lucky in the Twin Cities to have a lot of really talented functional medicine practitioners, more all the time. And if you live in a place that's a little bit more remote, then reaching out on Facebook and just asking can be very helpful. And what I ask people to meet and interview and see if you're going to get along with this person. If it's someone who's going to suggest $5,000 worth of testing right off the top, I would not hire that person. There are lots of less expensive ways to go about very targeted testing, and you want to look for someone who is knowledgeable and asking you good questions and suggesting, very targeted, specific tests before coming up with a treatment plan for you. Testing the entire world and charging you thousands of dollars is not a good sign. So just keep asking questions and definitely use social media to help you research that. But I think it's really important. You can even meet with people over the internet and consult with very knowledgeable people over the internet, and I highly recommend that as well. I've recommended to other clients of mine, and they've had really, really good conversations with very knowledgeable people. So keep digging is basically the suggestion there, and that's number 9. And then number 10 is to hire a coach. And again, I don't say this because I do coaching. I say it because coaching has changed my health and my life, and I never could have stuck to the changes that I needed to make if I didn't have somebody outside of me holding me accountable and offering me guidance and helping me open my eyes to where I needed to focus next. It's really hard to do it all by yourself. And so having the support of a coach can be an absolute game changer. And even though it costs money, it has saved me so much money from all of the experimenting that I did on my own and all of the money that I spent on supplements and other, healthcare practitioners, many of whom who were wonderful but were not the right thing for me at that time. A coach helped me focus in and figure out what was really going to work best for me, and then supported me emotionally through these various changes. And it's just been absolutely incredible. I do this. I have Project Vibrancy coaching. I do it in two ways. One, I have a group coaching program, which is a monthly membership. It includes Project Vibrancy meals for free. And so you can do the meal plans, and then we meet once a week in a group online, so we all see each other. And I meet with everyone one-on-one first and set very specific goals for you. And then the group knows what everyone's goals are and holds each other accountable, and provides a ton of support. And then I'm there to offer more suggestions, other places to look, other resources to try, helping people find good physicians if they need, and really just providing that, the unbelievable importance of a community when you're trying to make these changes, but also to have that knowledge. And then I also work with people one-on-one, which is a much more involved experience. I basically am available to people every day to chat with and to answer questions and to provide encouragement and to share the many trusted resources that I've developed over the years. So I love doing that. I love doing it in the group setting. I love doing it in the one-on-one setting. I'll put a link below to that. I only open membership for both of those a few times a year, but I'm opening it today. So I would love to have you join me if you've really been stuck trying to make these changes and you really want to get from point A to point B. That's why I'm here with meal plans, with recipes, with coaching, with all of it. And I'm happy to help. So that's basically it for today. I don't want to go on for too long. I just wanted to give you those top 10. I'll put links below to the things that I mentioned, which I believe were the food journal template, the coaching and Project Vibrancy meals. And I think I said I would share some of my favorite Instagram accounts with you guys, so that when you open Instagram, you can be motivated to certainly follow me. I am Stephanie.a.meyer. And I post every day. I link out to my recipes and provide, hopefully, encouragement in my Instagram stories. And feel free to DM me there. Many of you do. You can send me messages, ask me questions here in my other Facebook groups and through email. I am very available to answer questions. So, all right, you guys, thank you for being here and for watching. And let me know if you do have questions. And otherwise, I will see you probably not next week because I'm going to be traveling starting tomorrow. I'm going on a family, long-planned, extended family, taking a trip to Germany to visit the villages of our ancestors and do basically a historic genealogy tour with several aunts and uncles, some cousins, siblings, parents. It's very exciting. It's kind of weird that everyone in my family is all kind of from the same place, but it's very special too because that means we can swoop in a group and really see what would be my great-grandparents came from. So, but I'm still going to be available. I'm going to have, good cell. It's Europe. Good cell service and good Wi-Fi and all those things. So don't hesitate to ask questions just because I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing some work at the same time. So stay tuned for photos on my Instagram page, and I'll let you know how the food situation goes, of course. Other than that, enjoy the sunny weather and summer, and thanks for being here, you guys. Take care. Bye.